In the Bundesliga, there is a record that no one has ever seriously threatened for over 50 years. Bayern Munich 1971-72, 101 goals in 34 matches. Gerd Müller, Breitner, Beckenbauer. This mark was never narrowly missed, it was simply never really attacked. So what does that mean? 101 goals in 34 matches, that's almost 3 goals per game. A team in which talent, timing and system overlap perfectly. A season like that doesn't just happen. That's why this record survived for half a century. And then Vincent Kompany arrives. Previously a coach in England, 1 year earlier champion of the second division with Burnley, and the season after that immediately relegated again. And this exact man is now sitting at Bayern and making the oldest attacking record in German football right now look as if it was never particularly safe. Bundesliga 2025-26. 105 goals. And now comes the part that makes this whole thing absurd. We're not talking about the end of the season, we're talking about match day 29. So that this really sinks in, let's look at the curve. Here's Bayern's season progression, goal by goal. Horizontally, the match days, vertically, the total goals. And this line just keeps rising. Hardly any dents, no longer slump, no collapse. In the top right, it says 105 goals after 29 match days. Now let's add the old record holder, Bayern 1971-72. And suddenly you can see just how extreme this difference really is. After 29 match days, Bayern 2025-26 is on 105 goals. The old Bayern was on 81 at the same point and still needed 5 more matches to get to 101. So this is not just a record season. This is a season that doesn't just break the old record, but leaves it behind weeks before the end. And that's exactly why the real question is bigger than just Bundesliga history. Because if a team is clearly above a 50-year-old record, then maybe we're no longer talking about the best Bayern attack of all time, but about the best attack any team has ever played. Okay, so where do these numbers come from? Because something like this doesn't just happen by accident. Not through a few lucky matches, not through a hot streak over 3 weeks. Bayern has reached the Champions League semi-final, knocked out Real Madrid, is top of the Bundesliga with only 1 defeat. And on the side has pulverized the oldest league goals record in Germany. That only happens when a team controls opponents so strongly in attack that they don't even get their own game plan anymore. And that brings up the question, what actually makes a really good attack? Possession? Not really. Possession can also just be sterile dominance. A lot of control, little danger. An attack only becomes truly dangerous through 2 other things. First, passes into the final third. So the ability to constantly bring the ball into the zone where matches are decided. Second, through balls behind the defense. The balls that rip open a backline, between center back and full back, into the space behind the last line. The passes where the goalkeeper is already getting nervous before the ball even arrives. A team that does both often doesn't just have volume, but volume and precision. So let's look at that exactly. Every point is a Bundesliga team. Horizontally, passes into the final third. Vertically, through balls behind the defense. Top right is the ideal zone. A lot of ball progression, a lot of verticality, a lot of danger. Here we see Leverkusen, Dortmund, Stuttgart and Leipzig. The best attacking teams in the league behind Bayern. And then Bayern. 6,500 passes into the final third, 115 through balls. The gap between Bayern to second place is bigger than the gap from second place to last place. And that is exactly the structural answer to the question of why 105 goals have been scored here. Bayern doesn't just play more attacks, Bayern plays more attacks into dangerous spaces. But we're not done yet, because now comes the obvious objection. Up to this point you could completely fairly say, yes, impressive, but 105 goals against Bundesliga opponents are not the same thing as 105 goals against Real Madrid, Inter or Arsenal. And that is a good objection. So no longer we are comparing Bayern with the Bundesliga, but with all of Europe, with all teams from the 5 big leagues. But not simply by goals, because with goal stats there is a problem. Some teams score a lot, simply because they shoot at everything that moves. Then the goals go up, but the average shooting position is often only mediocre. Other teams are more selective. They shoot less often, but from better positions. So the holy grail is not simply lots of goals, the holy grail is lots of goals from good positions. And there's a number for exactly that: expected goals per shot. Sounds nerdy, but it's simple. It tells you how high the average scoring probability of a shot was. 0.1 means every shot had on average a 10% chance of becoming goal. 0.15 means 15%. Every point is a team from the 5 big leagues, right? Lots of goals up, good shooting positions. So top right would be the optimum. Barcelona 84 goals, 0.13. Inter Milan 75 goals, 0.11. Real Madrid, Arsenal, Liverpool, all somewhere in this field. And you can see quite clearly, almost every team has to make compromises somewhere. Either a lot of volume or high quality. Almost nobody manages both at the maximum at the same time. And now comes Bayern. 66 goals, 0.14 expected goals per shot. Even though it's good, it's not where I expected it to be. And to be fair, I wasn't completely honest with you just now. Because this year is only the first half of the season. Only match days 1 to 17. So already half a season of Bayern is sitting there where other top teams end up after a full season. And now the real version. Bayern after match day 29. 105 goals, 0.1 expected goals per shot. More goals than any other team from better positions than any other team at the same time. And at that point, the Bundesliga argument gets very thin. Because now we are no longer talking about dominance within Germany, we're talking about a profile that completely falls outside the grid, even compared with Europe's elite. But there's still one last objection, and that might be the most honest of all. Champions League. Because even if Bayern is tearing everything apart in the Bundesliga, the question remains, does that also happen on the biggest stage? And that is exactly what the Champions League is for. Not the league debate, not the question of whether the Premier League is deeper or La Liga has more top teams. The Champions League is the competition that is built precisely to test Europe's best teams directly against each other. And here, the pure total number of goals only helps us to a limited extent, because some teams have had more matches than others. So we look at the pace instead. How many goals does a team score per match? Every line is a team. Horizontally, matches, vertically, goals. The steeper the line, the more brutal the attacking pace. PSG, 38 goals in 13 matches. Atletico, 31 goals in 13 matches. Barcelona, 2.7 goals per game. Real Madrid, 2.4. And Bayern? 35 goals in 11 matches. That's 3.18 goals per game. The steepest line in the entire competition belongs to Bayern. Not in the National League, not only against familiar opponents from the weekend, but in the competition where Europe's top teams face each other directly. And if you have the highest attacking pace in both the Bundesliga and the Champions League, then a strong season slowly turns into a historical outlier. Bundesliga record broken, won the European comparison, Champions League best attacking pace. So that leaves only the final question, not is Bayern currently the best attacking team in the world? At this point, that's almost obvious. The bigger question is, will we still talk about this season in 50 years? The way we talk about Bayern 72 today, about Mourinho's Real, about Guardiola's Barca, or about the Galacticos. So let's look there. Here's the Bayern line again. We know it by now. Now Barcelona 2011-2012. For many, still the attacking gold standard of the modern game. 114 goals, 3.0 per match. An absurd season. But the line stays below Bayern. Then Real Madrid the same season. 121 goals, the record of modern football, 3.18 goals per match. That too is actually a monster number. But even this line only crosses Bayern briefly and then falls back. Because that is exactly the point. Many teams have extreme peak values, but almost none sustain this pace for so long and so consistently. And now the record that still stands above everything to this day. Torino 1947-48. 125 goals, the historical best mark of Europe's major leagues. A team that shaped an entire era in Italy, a monument of European football. And even if Bayern will probably not reach the absolute final number, For that, they would need 20 goals in the last 5 matches. That is still the decisive point. Lined up on the same section of the season, Torino is on roughly 90 goals after 29 match days. Bayern is on 105. That means Bayern may not crack the absolute record number, but the pace of the season, the steepness of this curve, the attacking force over 29 match days, that is greater than for all comparison teams. Not Mourinho's Real, not Barca's century offense, not Grande Torino. And that is exactly why, in the end, everything leads to the same answer. Bayern Munich 2025-26 is very probably playing the most extreme attacking season we have ever seen from a club team in Europe's major leagues. And yes, we will probably still be talking about the season in 50 years. What do you think? Is this just the start? Will Bayern be even better next season? Write me down your opinions in the comments below. If you want to see the statistics shown in this video and even more, go to the website pogoworld.de or the top link in the video description. If you don't want to miss more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Ciao and see you next time.